are live. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to our August 2020 regular meeting of Franklin City Public School Board. I am sorry that you cannot see me. I'm not sorry, but I am sorry because I did my hair and everything for you tonight. But it would appear that my camera is not agreeing with me and will not function at this time. But I will continue to try to launch that and get it up and running during the meeting. So that being said, do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
This is Andrea Leonard, Ward 3. I move that the school board, having been in closed session pursuant to a proper motion, come out of the closed session.
We have a motion.
Second.
I think I heard a second.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, moving by ward, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and of course, nays have the same opportunity.
Ward 1, aye.
Ward 3, Andrea Leonard, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
Carrie Johnson, at large, aye.
And Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries. Next up would be certification of our closed session. Do we have a certification?
Whereas Franklin, go ahead, please.
Whereas the Franklin City School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712.d of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Franklin City School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Moving by ward, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and of course, nays have the same opportunity.
Ward 1, aye.
Andrea Leonard, Ward 3, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
And Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries as well. Next up would be motions from our closed session. I believe we have a personnel agenda and we also have non-resident applications. So let's start with personnel. Do we have a motion in regards to the personnel agenda?
Madam Chair,
Move to approve the personnel agenda as presented.
We've got a first from Ms. Williams and Mr. Holt. I think I heard you too. Would you like to second?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, moving by ward, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and of course, nays have the same opportunity.
Ward 1, aye.
Andrea Leonard, Ward 3, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
Carrie Johnson, at large, aye.
Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries. All right, moving next, we have the non-resident applications. I believe we had 3, application 05, 06, and 07. Do we have a motion in regards to that?
This is Andrea Leonard, Ward 3. I move to approve the non-resident enrollment applications 05, 06, and 07.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, moving by ward, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and of course, nays have the same opportunity.
Ward 1, aye.
Andrea Leonard, Ward 3, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
Carrie Johnson, at large, aye.
And Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries as well. All right, next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. And since we're all in the digital age and we don't have the real deal right there in front of us, Ms. Moore has been so gracious as to supply us with a flag. So if everyone would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of
of
America
America,
and
And
to the republic for which it stands,
stands
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice
all.
for all.
For all.
Thank you very much. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I
Second.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and of course, nays have the same opportunity.
Ward 1, aye.
Had to unmute. This is Andrea Leonard, Ward 3, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
Carrie Johnson, at large, aye.
And Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries. Next up is roll call. Ms. Moore, if you would lead us through roll call, please.
Sure. Mr. Robert Holt,
Here.
Mrs. Amy Phillips,
Present.
Dr. Andrea Hall Leonard,
Present.
Ms. Marshall Williams,
Present.
Dr. Andrea Shelton,
Present.
Mrs. Carrie Johnson.
I'm here. Present.
Gotcha. All right, looks like we've got everyone. Ms. Moore, did we have anyone sign up for citizens' time or submit anything electronically for citizens' time?
No, not at this time.
All right. That takes us into the consent agenda. First up is minutes. We have minutes from, let me get this out of my way, June the 18th up first. All of these minutes were provided to us at our work session for review, so I hope you each have taken the opportunity to review those. Next up behind that would be our meetings from the minutes from the July 12th work session, July 2nd work session. My tongue will not work with me this evening. Those minutes are up right now for the public to see.
I have a question before we move forward with the minutes.
Okay.
I believe, and I'm looking at my calendar, that we're still missing a set of minutes.
Okay.
I see June 18th,
Mm-hmm.
July 2nd,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and July 16th. I don't see the minutes for the 4th.
For the June 4th or the June 3rd, because we had the June 3rd emergency meeting as well. I emailed Ms. Moore about those earlier, and she is working on those, and hopefully she should have them at the work session for us to review and vote on at the next public meeting.
Okay, so that would be June 3rd and 4th.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, and that is right now is the minutes from the Thursday, July 16th meeting. Does anyone have any questions before we move to the next item in the consent agenda concerning those minutes?
Madam Chairman, I'm going to need to abstain from the June meeting since I was not there. So
Okay.
if we could separate those out.
Okay, the June 18th. So if we will pull the June 18th, we will vote on that one separately.
Correct. Thank you.
I'm just making note real quick. All right, so moving on from the minutes, the 3 minutes, 3 sets of minutes, we have purchase order 21-104. This is to Scanning Pens, Inc. These are items, I think it's notated on the bottom, yes, that are for exceptional ed students, since we are going to be learning virtually and they're going to be utilizing different resources. So that's what this is an additional resource for the exceptional ed students to use and to assist them with their reading assignments. And there's the actual invoice. All right, does anybody have any questions before we move forward? All right, so we are going to pull June 18th, 2020 minutes and vote on those separately. So let's take that one first. Do I have a motion in regards to the June 18th, 2020 minutes?
I move to approve the June 18th, 2020 minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Moving by ward, all those in favor signify by aye, and nays have the same opportunity. And of course, you always have the option to abstain as well.
Ward 1, abstain.
Andrea Hall Leonard, Ward 3, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
Carrie Johnson, at large, aye.
And Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries. So do we have a motion in regards to the remainder of the consent agenda?
No, I have some unreadiness for the minutes for July the 2nd. I believe there's an error. So how do you handle that? Do you want to pull that to vote on separately for us to look closely at it to make sure that it's not an error?
We can.
I think we need to look closely at Thursday, July 2nd.
Okay, which do you want to go ahead and have that discussion and we will pull that?
Okay, yes. On the page 1, look at section 5. The section under selection of school board vice chair. Is that correct? Look at the motion section. Look closely at it.
Okay, give me just a second. Yes, because we have.
The motion was made first.
Okay, nomination was made.
I think we had a 3-3 tie, so that's
But
why we delayed that.
But I don't think that's what it says under section 5. That's why I said look at it closely.
Right.
Ms. Moore, can you scroll down just a little bit more?
You want to look at that section that says a nomination was made for Dr. Shelton. Look right there. A motion was made to close the nominations.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then where you see where it says voting for,
Mm-hmm.
that is incorrect. Because if it was correct, that means she would be vice chair.
That's correct.
So that is incorrect. Mr. Holt is correct. It was a tie.
That is correct.
Yes, it was a tie. So that's why I said look closely at that section.
It looks like they're out of order.
Mm-hmm. So we may want to just pull Thursday to July 2nd to go back to make these corrections. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Let's pull, let's pull July
2nd.
2020, July 2nd, 2020, to review that, because that looks like there's some issues with that. Ms. Moore, are you good with that?
Yes, you can. Yes, I'm okay with that. I would, this section went back and forth several times with everybody nominating. I reviewed it several times to get it right. And then even after the 3-3, and I see where the table is down here above 6.
Mm-hmm.
Motion was made to table. So even after everything, we tabled this section, but I will review the tape if you would like for me to do that again.
Okay, so Madam Chair, I'd move at this time to pull the school board reorganizational meeting minutes for Thursday, July 2nd from the consent agenda for further review.
All right, we have a motion in regards to that. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. And of course, nays have the same opportunity. And also you have the opportunity to abstain.
Ward 1, aye.
Ward 3, Andrea Leonard, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
Carrie Johnson, at large, aye.
Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries. So that leaves us with the July 16th minutes and the purchase order 21-104. Are there any other questions in regards to those two items? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion in regards to the remainder of the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. And of course, nays and abstentions have the same opportunity.
Ward 1, aye.
Andrea Leonard, Ward 3, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
Carrie Johnson, at large, aye.
Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries. All right. Moving right along. Next up, we have audit update. Dr. Sterling, I will turn that over to you to begin.
All right, thank you so much. This evening, we'll have our Assistant Superintendent present the audit update for August 20th, 2020 board meeting. Mr. Ryder.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Board of Education Superintendent. I have a short update for everyone for the audit for the fiscal year 2020 school year. It's only one slide. On July 31st, we had met with the city folks and the auditors on a Zoom meeting, and we were given our whole list of documents to supply to them. Roughly half of this stuff has been gathered up and uploaded to the auditor portal. The activity funds for the schools are sent in separately. So all three schools have sent those into the auditor as well. A couple of the things that take a little longer to do, especially accrued items. Accrued means that you have to wait until after the year ends. You got to wait a month and a half, and then you have to put them back and accrue them back to that period. So those are just by their very nature take time. But we are shooting to have all of our documents to the auditors by August 31st to have, and the only thing that the three largest things that take the most time, the accrued revenues, the reconciliation of the cardinal report, which is revenue, and the fixed asset listing are, I am ready to upload those tomorrow. And so more to come. Does anybody have any questions?
My only question, this is Andrea Leonard, Ward 3. My question would be for the chair and Mr. Ryder, whether or not we have received a report from the auditor.
No, we won't have their report for probably another month and a half.
Okay. Thank you.
Say, usually isn't that like end of October, early November when we receive that?
Yes, yes it is.
I will say, and that'll lead into the next item Mr. Ryder has. We did, and I let all of the board know as well, that we were having a meeting with officials from the city Monday in regards to some communications that had been received in regards to the end of year finances for the school division. And there were 4 bullet points. The first 3 kind of were all looped together. And then there was a 4th one in regards to activity funds. the first three where the concern was, so we've all been briefed on by Mr. Ryder and Dr. Sterling that for the end of the fiscal year, we actually came in under budget to the tune of right around $50,000. But the city had raised a concern that some of the line items within the budget were overspent where others were underspent. And their point was that we actually overspent our budget by overspending those line items. So, of course, communication is a whole lot harder in text than it is when we actually sit down and have physical conversations. So we felt rather than playing the back and forth game, it was best to come around the table and actually have those conversations so that we could understand from each side and have that dialogue. And where the city said the issue is that even though we are not categorically funded, we are lump sum funded by the state, the federal government, as well as by the city of Franklin, that before the end of each fiscal year, we have to go through and amend those line items in the budget so that one doesn't look overspent and one looks underspent. So it's a net neutral budget adjustment is what they said we have to do. So that is leading into the next item that you'll see before you, which is the memorandum. Jeff, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, well, you did a pretty good job there, Ms. Phillips. It's really just a cosmetic rearrangement of the numbers. It has no net effect on, it actually has no net effect whatsoever on the financial statements. These are just the budget figures. So all we needed to do to make sure that the variances almost basically disappeared was we just had to move budget numbers from one line down to another. And there's no net effect on the financial statements at all.
Does anyone have any questions in regards to the memorandum?
This is Andrea Leonard.
Go ahead, Dr. Hall Leonard.
So my question is, did this take care of the concerns that were expressed by the council or the finance department for the city?
Yes, they did.
It was a really positive meeting with a lot of, well, not a lot, but I would say about 2 or 3 good recommendations coming from Amanda Jarrett and Ms. Spence as we begin to move forward. So that was good, but we presented them with the budget adjustment right at the meeting. So they're going to, once we vote on it, they'll vote on it on Monday at their Monday night's meeting.
And just to clarify that point, because the budget is approved by the city so that they can fund us, we have to adjust it, and then it has to go to the city for the city's approval as well, because they have to adjust that within what they have for our budget as well.
Right.
I think a lot of other school divisions, instead of moving money like this, they complained that they didn't have enough, so they asked for more. And we were smart enough to anticipate that and make adjustments. So hopefully it shouldn't be an issue with anyone.
No, we actually have a surplus. So after the audit is complete, board members, that's when we always ask for the rollover. So we're just waiting for that audit to be complete, and then we will ask for the additional funds that we sent back.
And I think it speaks volumes that we've done very good at staying within the budget for the last couple of years, given where we've come from. So Dr. Sterling and Mr. Ryder, as well as the entire division, have done a great job of maintaining and staying within that budget. So thanks to all of you. So in that regards, do we have a motion in regards to the memorandum
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Shelton. I just stepped right over top of you. I'm sorry. Go right
That's
ahead.
okay. The first one, expense decrease in instruction. Is that saying those are funds that were allocated for instruction or taken away from instruction?
Those were the funds that were allocated to instruction, but were not spent. So we're
Okay.
removing them from there and putting them to the other lines.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from anyone for Mr. Ryder or for Dr. Sterling? If not, then I will entertain a motion in regards to the notice of budget amendments.
This is Andrea Leonard, Ward 3. I move to approve the notice of budget adjustments.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all of those in favor signify by saying aye. And of course, nays and abstentions have the same opportunity.
Ward 1, aye.
Andrea Leonard, Ward 3, aye.
Marshall Williams, Ward 4, aye.
Andrea Shelton, Ward 5, aye.
Carrie Johnson at large, aye.
Amy Phillips, Ward 2, aye. That motion carries. One other thing that I will highlight, because I did say it was 4 and that 3 of those items all kind of lumped together. The fourth one was the activity funds. There was some conversation in regards to the activity funds. And in the past, for as long as probably anyone can remember, so that goes even beyond those of us that are sitting currently on the board, every year the division allocates funds to each of the schools to be used for activities within each of those school buildings. So each school building gets a pot of money that they use. For instance, things like field day, things of that nature. Just throwing some ideas out. This year with the audits, of course, with COVID, that has created a situation where a little bit more money would be needed for activities within each of those buildings. So that kind of drew the auditor's attention so far, and they've just questioned that at this point. So there's some questions in regards to the activity funds, but we've done that the same way this year that we've done it every year in the past. And it's not been any kind of findings or anything in regards to the audit. It was just something that they brought up. So I just did want to put that on your radar. I don't know that there will be any concerns within the audit about that, but it was just a topic of conversation. So I just wanted to put that on the board's radar as well, since it was mentioned.
This is Andrea Leonard, Ward 3. So my question would be, Mrs. Phillips, for Mr. Ryder, will you bring that back to the activity fund, back to the board after your review so that the board can review it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you.
And we are keeping our dates, our emails, and our phone calls all logged until we have that meeting.
I think in past years, the firm of Britt and Peak used to audit just the activity funds, and the auditor that did the city work just never even looked at that. So this is kind of new, I think.
Ms. Phillips, did you want to speak on, or I don't have a problem with it, the city alluding to or recommending that we have our own audit?
Yes, and that they brought that up last year, just kind of as a side note when we were in the midst of the audit. And this year they are really holding the that as a conversation point anytime there is a conversation surrounding the audit, that they really strongly urge us to consider having our own separate audit. One of the benefits with doing that is that then our audit isn't part of the city's audit and vice versa. So there's no commingling of that data from one entity to the next. And also ours, you know, it's not like when the city's audit is being done that there's a hand in both pots at the same time, so to speak. So that may be something that we want to consider as a board. And that may be a conversation that we do need to have as to whether in the future for next year, we want to look at that. I do know that the city's contract with their auditing firm, this is the last year of that contract. So they will be for next year looking at whom they will be contracting with for the audit moving forward.
Right.
So then my question would be, this is Andrea. My question is, currently, the way it is now, the school board does not incur any cost, I believe, for the audit. And then if we have our own auditors, we will. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I think we could ask them to allocate a percentage of what they pay to the school board for that purpose. But I think it would be great if we could do our own audit.
I would love
not have to worry about them.
That is, without, you know, there is no other way to say it. That is also one area in regards to the city's ties with the school board, that there really is not a division between the two when it comes to the audit, because it is looking at it. Yes, we're looked at separately, but it is one, it's one whole audit. You've got one auditing firm doing everything. So that would also create some division there as well, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, that there would be a division in that audit process. So that, what I can do if it is the consensus of the board is I can ask, we can reach out to the city and ask them when they will be looking at renegotiating that contract or looking at who to move forward with as far as their auditing firm. And we can start looking at what expense that would incur for us. And we can start looking ourselves if the board, if it's the consensus of the board to just investigate to see how to move forward with that.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yes.
All right, then I will work with Dr. Sterling and we'll reach out to Amanda Jarrett and have those conversations. And as we have information, we will bring that back to the board.
Okay.
All right.
My gut feeling is they would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure the city would be more than willing for us to have that separate. They've indicated they would be more than willing for us to have that separate.
Good.
So, all right, Mr. Ryder, anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, that's it. You covered that. They did say that they would appreciate if we got our own auditors.
All right, Dr. Sterling, do you have anything else to add to that?
Not to that conversation, just
the rest of your superintendent's overview, then I'll let you proceed.
Yes, thank you. I provided the board with an information guide that we're going to launch tomorrow. I will be doing a reverse 911 call to our parents, and I just wanted to do an overview for our community that's watching this evening. This is the Franklin City Public Schools Reopening Guide 2020. As you can see, and it will be much more vivid once it launches on our website. You see it has all the board members and my message to our community and our Franklin family. Next. We give an overview of the first semester calendar. Oh, thank you. Wonderful. Also, the reopening plans, the parent registration and soft enrollment is going extremely well at this time. We're going to be doing our soft enrollment all the way up until next week, but each school is almost 50% done, so we're pleased with that. We will be launching the first week of September, the next week actually, our parent-student professional development. So our parents can sign up as well as our students electronically to start taking those webinars, so they will learn about all of the training modules. As you can see, we will be training our community on Zoom, Canvas, iExcel, which is an online math tutorial program, iExcel Reading, Jason Learning, thank you, Virtual Virginia, a parent portal, Power School, HMH Math for elementary, HMH Reading, Achieve 3000, and the Write in Edmonton platform. We also are providing our parents with the technology device initiative and the fees that go along with that. We are working with parents that are calling us at this time that may not be able to may not be able to have the insurance fee of the $25 or $10. So we are working with that on a case-by-case basis. We also inform our community of connectivity and meals that we will be providing for our school community. Next, we added the grading and assessment. That is very important. We let our parents know our grading policy and how they will be the same through Canvas instructional platform. Also, we added our attendance policy. Our students need to know they need to come to class, even though it's virtual, every day. We talk about transportation, returning to school safety, and we're really, really proud, like we talked about at the last board meeting, our community service providers day camps. We also have the link. So once this launches on our Facebook, our Twitter, we now have an Instagram account and our own website. All you have to do is say, I want to go to Franklin City Public Schools Boys and Girls Club affiliation. You can click the link and it'll open up to the application. So it's a one-stop shop for our parents. Next. Again, you have from the Boys and Girls Club, where we also added a Martin Luther King Jr. Teen Center for students that are 13 to 18 years old. We're working with the Boys and Girls Club and Parks and Rec to develop activities just for our teens. And also we've added, if you could turn the page for me. We also added our mental health support for our families, and we're very excited about that. We added information about Western Tidewater, Agape, Lavac, and Therapeutic Interventions who are working with us this year, as well as informational links for our parents. So this guide will be launched tomorrow. It will be interactive, and we are very excited to have developed this product for our community.
Awesome.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr. Sterling. Any questions on the reopening guide for Dr. Sterling?
Very well done.
Excellent.
Yeah, I
Excellent.
didn't have a question. It's very thorough, very nice.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I feel the same way. And Dr. Sterling, will you reach out to Amanda Jarrett and see if the city is willing to share that as well? Because there's a lot of resources in there for not just the students, but for community members as well when you're looking at that back page.
I did reach out to her. I did reach out to her already, and she's waiting on the final product, which will be launched tomorrow. I'm also going to work with Smart Beginnings so they can send that out on their email blast, as well as sending it to the chamber so they can post it on their website as well. And all of the healthcare providers agreed that they will post it on their website as well. So we're going to get it all over Franklin City.
Phenomenal. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, board members. That concludes my report.
All right. Next up is business by school board members. Dr. Hall Leonard, I think, had a couple of things that she had shared. Dr. Hall Leonard, would you like to proceed?
Yes, had to make sure I'm unmuted. First thing was the Hampton Roads Educational Committee, which is a collaboration with WHRO, and wanted to make sure that all board members, including Dr. Sterling, had the most recent educational report. And the next meeting for the Superintendent's Advisory Council and the combined meeting for the Educational Advisory Committee is scheduled for October the 7th. And I know we talked about this during reorganizational under committees, whether some of these organizations were still meeting. And also I provided information for the Norfolk Governor School for the Arts. Now on their website, they have included their plan. So we wanted to make sure that our school board was aware. In addition, I'm sure the middle school and the high school have the information for parents, as parents are coming in, and Dr. Sterling and her staff can talk about that. And the next meeting for the Norfolk Governor School of the Arts Regional Board, that meeting is scheduled for, let's see, the 30th, September the 30th at 11 o'clock a.m. In addition to that, I had the opportunity to participate in the alternative education options for gifted children during a pandemic and beyond. And that was sponsored by the National Association for the Gifted. That meeting, that webinar was held on August the 13th at 7 o'clock p.m. The information was shared in advance to our director of director of gifted. Now that's a new title, Dr. Sterling. So hopefully I'm not messing it up.
Well. You're doing
Director of Gifted and Exceptional Education Instruction, Miss Tanikia Ricks. So that information was given to her in advance so that she could share it with any parents who may be interested in participating as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hall Leonard. So that puts on our radar that should Dr. Hall Leonard, because she has been so gracious in, I thought I said last time we were not going through deja vu again, but she has been so gracious to continue to serve in the role for Ward 3, and we are truly appreciative of her doing so. But she sits on those two committees for us as well. So if by some, let's say third time's a charm, by some stroke of the wand, she ends up not with us after this coming week or before those two meeting dates of September 30th and October 7th, we will need to look at getting someone into those roles so that we can have representation at those meetings. So just put that on our radar just to be on the safe side. All right. Anyone else have anything for business by school board members?
I do have one thing, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Holt?
Got a call from Mr. Warren today, and he just wanted to thank everyone in Franklin for what we all did for him and recognize his good work. And he really appreciated the way he left. It was just a good thing all around. He is principal of a Virginia Beach elementary school, about the same size of Morton, he told me. He's working hard. He's really busy right now, but he just loved the opportunity, and we loved having him. And he just thinks Franklin prepared him for what he's doing now. So I told him I would pass that on to the board.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yes, and we do wish him well. I do have one other thing, Ms. Phillips.
Okay.
On August the 10th, I wanted to make sure I had the correct date. August the 10th, I believe, is when you and Dr. Sterling had the opportunity to present to City Council. Do I have that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yes. And I just wanted to say, I thought it went really well. The presentation, you did an excellent job with the presentation, as well as Dr. Sterling provided information to the community at large and our stakeholders, as well as council with the handouts. And I even like the memo that says from the desk, I believe it says from the desk of the school board, from the office of the school board. But I thought that presentation, the questions that were asked by council and the way they were, the responses, I thought it went well.
Thank you very much. I did as well. I was very happy to see council as engaged as they were. And I don't think we could have asked for a better outcome from that meeting. The intention was that we wanted to make sure that the city knew, since we do touch, not physically, but we do educate such a large population of the city, and that impacts all of those families as well. We wanted to make sure that the city was well versed on what we were doing, but we also wanted that opportunity to reach those citizens and stakeholders that might not necessarily have had the opportunity to be engaged with our meeting. And I thank Dr. Hall Leonard and Mr. Holt and Dr. Shelton as well for being there. And I know that Ms. Williams and Ms. Johnson were also participating from a distance. So I appreciate everyone's support. I feel like I can't take the credit for it because that was a board decision. I just was the one that had to get up and use the voice. So I appreciate everyone's support, and I appreciate working with each of you to get to where we are. I feel like as a division, we have really developed a tremendously solid plan. And I want to thank each of you for that.
Thank you.
That meeting also reminded me that Dr. Hall Leonard mentioned. Also on the agenda that night was the issue of elected school boards. And my gut feeling is that city council at some point will move in that direction, simply because they don't want to have to fool with it anymore. They tell me they feel responsible that we have 2 vacancies right now, and it's just not something they want to deal with anymore. So my thought is they're probably going to vote to do that at some point. I don't know when.
I agree, Mr. Holt. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was moving to that next. So that is something that as school board members, we may want to keep our ears open to those discussions as they have them. I was not anticipating that conversation when it came up. We actually seem to have been the highlight of that meeting on the 10th, because we had 3 different spots. We had that, we had the Ward 6 nomination, which there was a citizen nominated for Ward 6. And we also had the discussion of moving to an elected school board. So it was like we were at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, all in one night. So that was an interesting night for us in regards to the city council. Anyone else have anything for business by school board members? If not, up next is VSBA Media Honor Roll, and actually tomorrow is the deadline for that. And I apologize because I had it on my to-do list and forgot to add it to our work session, and then got the email and thought about it again. Typically in the past, we have recognized people within the media that have helped us shine a positive light on the school division. So I thought we might as well take a look at that, and if the board had any suggestions on who to consider for that or who to put forth for that, I am more than willing to listen.
This is Andrea again, Ward 3. I was thinking during the pandemic, during this pandemic, we've had several businesses from the downtown area that were instrumental in really supporting the school division. Now, I don't know if it was a I believe you told us, Madam Chairman, that it was a collaborative effort.
It was, and with the VSBA Media Honor Roll, it's looking for those media resources that have shown a positive light, and I do love your suggestion. But
who did we have last year? Who did we recommend last year for the media?
Last year was the Tidewater News, and Stephen Cowles accepted on behalf of them. We had. It was two more because there was a board member that presented to each one.
Okay, there was WHRO.
Yes, WHRO was the other one.
WHRO was the other one.
And it was one more, and I'm drawing a blank.
Well, I would definitely say WHRO again because they continue to support us.
And I would think Tidewater News also. I think Stephen has done some good work for us. Actually, both of them. Stephen Fileski as well at times.
Yes.
And I think the last one was the radio station.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. It was the local radio station.
So then why don't you want to look at all three?
We absolutely can, because we can nominate up to 3.
Okay.
Do all 3.
All right. So is it the consensus of the board to put forth WHRO, the Tidewater News, and WLQM as our 3 to be included in the media honor roll for VSBA?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, then I would say that is our 3. Miss Moore, can you take care of getting that submitted tomorrow?
Yes, I sure will.
Wonderful. All right. Moving next, important dates to remember. Of course, we have our, we've got actually some very important dates coming up because we are moving into September, and moving into September means first day of school. So that is set for September 1st. And just to keep in mind for those that may be watching or may go back and watch, just remember that we are fully virtual for the first 9 weeks. So we do have those sessions, those webinar opportunities coming up for our students and our families to gradually pull them into that virtual learning experience. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Of course, on September the 3rd, Wednesday, September the 3rd, we do have our work session for the school board. Also, I just want to say it's not really our date, but on Monday, this coming Monday, August the 24th, City Council does have their regular meeting, and they will have a huge public meeting as part of that, as I'm sure all the members of the community, are aware. But there is the potential that City Council may be making appointments to our 2 vacancies on the school board as well that night. So I just wanted to make all board members aware of that. Any other important dates that anyone would like to highlight going on within the division? If not, then I'm going to move to everybody's favorite part of the evening, item 6.1. If I have no objections, then we will adjourn the meeting. Do I have any objections?
No objections.
None.
All right, hearing none, then I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I look forward to seeing everyone's face in person on September the 3rd.
Great.
Okay.
Good night. Have a good evening.
Before we leave, Dr. Paul Leonard, I just want to say again, thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome.
Everything.
You don't have to go through that long spiel again.
We're just going to say third time is a charm.
Have a good one.
Have a
You
good one.
too.
Good night.
Right.